Hello and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four friends have chill discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog, and, every once in a while, you might learn something, get educated. I'm CyberLink.
I'm RockTheJake.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm GameBuddy.
And it has been quite the week. There's been a lot of Sonic discussion recently, let's say. I realize it's going to date the podcast recording a little bit, but oh boy, we are a few weeks out from Origins. There's been a lot more news on Frontiers. And
has there, though? Has there been?
Yeah, there have been multiple sneak peeks. Let's just put it that way.
I'm pretty sure it still won't be out by the time we put this episode out, but I am more interested than ever to see literally just what that game is, because even after having seen it, I'm still not entirely sure.
Yeah. At the same time, I'm not going to join the chorus of people who are microanalyzing every bit to already completely form an opinion.
Well, some people are making money on that, so that's their job, is to be hypercritical.
I don't have YouTube brain, so that is not my vice or disease, so...
Also, there must be something wrong with my brain, by the way. When I heard, when Luke said more interested than ever, I heard it as more Idris than Elba, and I was like, wow, where are we at?
Hey, it is post-Sonic 2 movie world, baby. Bring it on.
It exists in the world.
It certainly does. Speaking of which, I did watch that animated short that came with the digital version of the movie. And
oh yeah, I gotta watch that.
It's cute. It's a little weird that, I get if they couldn't get Idris Elba in the studio, but they really couldn't get Colleen either. Really?
That is the only thing that stands out, is that the only, returning voice from the movies has been Schwartz. And I love Fred Tatasciore. He's like one of the greats, but also I couldn't help. And especially after having that conversation with Dave about acting and accents, and I could not help but notice that in doing an Idris Elba impression, Tatasciore is kind of just doing like a generic English posh and is missing that little bit of regional Cockney that Idris has. And I'm like, nope, it's not the same. No.
Well, I'm glad you can tell. I think most people can sort of tell when it's not Idris Elba, because the quality is reduced significantly.
Yeah, I mean, again, not bad, but I'm just like you said, like, really? Y'all couldn't get them back in? Or but anyway, it is fine. It's cute. It looks really nice because it's a fully animated thing. It's not like a live action mix, but it's cute. It's just, that does stand out as a weird thing. But wow, who would imagine a Sonic property have switching around voices? It's never happened before.
No,
what?
Never. Honestly, I would love to see them do more kind of animated shorts in that style, just to kind of fill space between the movies or the Paramount Plus show or whatever. I feel like that's a thing that they could probably do fairly easily, just these little, 3 or 4 minute vignettes.
I mean, the prequel sort of filled that kind of role too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The IDW comic that sort of bridged the gap between the first and second movie.
Introduce the concept of Robotnik tripping off the mushrooms on that planet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be cool if they did more of that, but, we'll see.
Yeah, I didn't even think it might be a taste of, what that Knuckles show might be like.
I forgot about the Knuckles show.
It was announced.
Yeah,
yes.
Still coming next year as far as I know.
Okie dokie.
Just hope he gets a cloak and starts searching through the ancient ruins of the Kohenyu and old burial ground. And that's
you stop that.
Hey, that's the kind of Knuckles story I could get behind. What if it turns out his race is in some sort of hologram hidden city that's actually on the island all this time, and they've been living in an advanced civilization, and also Star Trek.
Now, see, I was gonna say the ghostly visions of some talking Triceratops, but you just took it the worst way possible.
What if they give Knuckles in the TV show his hat from the OVA?
Fund it. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if they give him a pet dinosaur?
Oh,
Knuckles
guys.
Adventures. For
You were
the
just
GameCube.
telling us to stop it, and now here you are.
If you guys are going to indulge in sin, so am I.
Well, we can't today. We're talking about a really wholesome topic, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Although some of that wholesomeness comes off a little bit creepy for the time, but we'll get there when we get there.
There's also some illicit gambling.
Yeah. Well, that seems a good opportunity to jump into our main topic for this week, which is Sonic educational games. As we said, we're kind of sort of in a back to school phase as we're releasing this episode. Not really, it's a little late, but I have a weird sort of predilection towards old school educational games just because that's what I grew up on. I still have a lot of fondness for, your Reader Rabbits, your Humongous Entertainments, your Lego Island. Oh my God, I could go down a rabbit hole on that one. But for whatever reason, I missed out on all of the Sonic educational games, despite being a huge Sonic fan, aside from like some brief moments with one or two of them. So it's been interesting to go back and see what I missed and whether or not they were any good.
Well, the problem was they didn't release them on Genesis or Mega Drive, so
that's true.
You didn't exactly have the hardware required to appreciate them during the prime time of actually being a child who needs these things.
Yeah, there was only one released during that era for a system I owned, and I always saw it in the Scholastic Book Club little circulars or whatever, but never bothered.
Now you say that, but true to my word, I did own a Sega Pico that when we decided on this topic, I busted out of storage and unfortunately found that it has worn out. And so I was not able to replay some of these games, but I do have my memories that are locked away. If anybody knows a surefire way on how to solder repair the stylus on a Sega Pico, let me know.
But for today's episode, are you going to take the key and unlock those memories to share with us?
Yes. I definitely remember playing this game, with the giant, at least 8 to 10 pound Pico on the floor and my head dangerously craned up looking at the television.
Should we take a moment to explain what the Pico is to anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of important because there's a lot of our listeners who, I can't say the Pico was gone before they were born because that thing never died in Japan.
You got to talk about how popular that thing was in Japan to where it was getting cross-licensed games. Like there is an official Pokemon game.
There are multiple official Pokemon games
for the Sega Pico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Jeremy, since you actually owned one, can you fill our audience in on basically what a Pico was?
Okay, so the Sega Pico was mainly made for a younger audience, with educational video games. It unfolds kind of like a laptop, but it opens up and it's not technically a touchpad. I think the stylus works more with like a radio signal that tells, the hardware vaguely where it's pointed. Which is why it's very easy to wear out and break. But yeah, the games are large cartridges that also fold out pages like a storybook. And you would touch things on the pages to complete the games. But there were tons of games for it that were all mostly licensed. There are lots of Disney games. We're going to talk about, there were a couple of Sonic games on there. It's even an Echo the Dolphin game called Echo Junior that is only on the Pico. But I found looking to possibly fix my own in the future, found that someone has insanely, geniusly created a flash cart for the Pico that lets you pass through and play Mega Drive games on it, because the Pico hardware is based on a Mega Drive. So yeah, there is footage of people with this bootleg Pico storybook cartridge with Mega Drive carts just plugged into it upside down, playing Mortal Kombat 2 on this children's entertainment system.
That is so bizarre.
Oh man.
like you said, it was very popular in Japan. They kept manufacturing it looking at it right now until 2005 is when they finally discontinued the Pico in Japan.
Well, technically, they discontinued it in 2005, and then they just made a new model of Pico.
Okay.
The Pico Bina, I believe.
Oh, yes, I'm
called.
saying yes.
And
goodness gracious.
That one, I believe the last game to be released for that was, I'm seeing 2011,
Man.
which is wild.
Funny enough, Pico Bina sounds like a Pokemon name, so...
Yeah.
I know.
I think it's supposed to be short for Pico Be Natural.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like an Englishy thing that's like, oh, it sounds like Be Natural. Yeah.
That Pico do be natural.
I just think about pinto beans.
Yep. So yeah, I remember it. You know, I haven't really looked up any other people's experiences. I remember it worked like pretty okay as far as like, you know, not being a true stylus type thing. I sure do remember playing the hell out of it though. I remember for the longest time we had, was it Sonic's Game World? We had, I think it came with the Busy World of Richard's Scary Game.
Oh, wow.
And then the 101 Dalmatians like math game. We held on to the thing for so long that when my youngest sister was born, my grandmother tracked down like 7 or 8 more games from a garage sale. And so, yeah, we also have there's The Lion King, Disney's Pocahontas, Winnie the Pooh, and yeah, the aforementioned Echo Jr. So I have less experience with those, but yeah, I personally played a lot of Sonic's Game World.
I played a Pico. I've only played it twice. I played it once at a friend's house, the same friend who had a Genesis that I would always play Sonic games at. I don't remember if he had a Pico or if he was just borrowing it from somebody, but I played Sonic Game World once there. And then the other time was at a cousin's house. They had a Pico with Europe Pooh Corner, and I played that once, and that was it.
But that one time was all you needed.
You're a what corner?
I know, I wasn't going to say, sound like you said Europe Poop Corner.
Yeah.
A year at Pooh Corner.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a long year.
It's okay. I bought some laxatives. Anyway.
Da.
Good night, everybody.
So yeah, it's important to talk about what the Pico was because our first 2 games on our list are, in fact, Pico games, starting with Tales and the Music Maker. Technically, it was released first in the West, but I believe Sonic's Game World came out first in Japan.
Yeah, Tales of the Music Maker I never had for my personal Pico, but always wanted because, hey, it's another Sonic game. But yeah, looking at it now through videos and just looking at images of the Storyware cartridge, and you know, cross-checking the credits, it seems to be like it was developed specifically in the in America and possibly Europe.
It's a company called Novotrade International. I believe they later changed to Appaloosa Interactive. They were based in Hungary, I believe.
Because it sure does use the Adventures design for Tails and Sonic. Sonic cameos at the end, and that is definitely Mr. Mohawk Adventures Sonic there. And so it's kind of it's just kind of surreal to see that version of Tails like animated with his own little custom sprites in these Sonic ones. It's they're pretty cute. I kind of like it.
He's not quite as brown, but it's still very much that Tails.
Yeah, he definitely skews a little more orange.
He's got pink shoes though. I don't know if that was a hardware thing or what.
Yeah, they're like pink purple.
Not the blue shoes in some of that other classic Tails arc.
Those are his learning shoes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when in Japanese schools where you got to change your shoes when you're inside the school. He's got to wear his
Yeah.
sandals.
Oh yeah,
Stops by the shoe locker at the right time for learning.
that's his school uniform. Just purple shoes.
Yeah, I feel like this one is maybe the weakest of all the educational games we're going to talk about, just based on the fact that there's really not a whole lot to it. Like it's definitely sort of more of a activity center thing, like Gameworld is, but there's not a whole lot of education to it, and also there's not a whole lot of game to it either. It's more just kind of toys for you to play with almost.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple that are more mini gamey, but they're fewer and further between, I think.
The games on the first page are you click the frog and then you play a musical chairs-esque game with a bunch of frogs on lily pads, but seemingly all you have to do is just jump and not end up on the orange one that's going to disappear and drop you into the water. And I guess it is kind of cute to hear these royalty-free, like classical music and nursery rhymes on a Genesis sound chip. But yeah, other than that, Pico games are very simple, but some do like straight up control with the little, I guess you could call it a D-pad, the 4 directional buttons and the big red button. Like that's how Echo Jr. controls. Like you move him around with that and, use that. But it's very, like you said, you can almost hardly call them games, let alone like full activities that are supposed to have a little bit of education about music.
On the frog one for a second, while it's still in the air, can we just talk about the fact that, obviously frogs falling into water isn't the end of the world, but and Tails can swim. But the way it looks like they're like gradually eliminated to this children's game is reminiscent of, I don't know if you've heard of it, but a certain Netflix show called Squid Game. I'm just thinking like Tails has signed up to this little thing. It's him or these frogs, and he's got to walk out alive.
That's not water they're floating in.
They drop under the water and don't pop back up. So
that's true.
We just, what is the best case scenario here? That, they just swam outside of the screen to, reset.
But if this is Adventure Tales, he can't swim. So he is basically dead.
Uh-oh.
Whoops.
Yeah, I think the other game on the first one is the weird one where, again, instead of just using little directional buttons, you're choosing at the top of the screen, like various motions for Tails to do, like there's stop, tiptoe, run, and jump.
So no, you actually can use the directional buttons for that one, but instead adjust like Tails' speed. So like you press the forward button once, he tiptoes, press it again, he starts running. And then you can press the big button to jump. But it's either way, it does not control especially well.
No. And this is another one that does have, like I said, cute, like chiptune renditions of classical music in between, every different. But because it's tied to a button press, like it's just jumping between these musical tracks, and there's like a lot of dissonance. And
what is the name of the song that plays during the run section?
Oh, no, I know the one. Why can I never remember the name?
We're very cultured here on the This Is Still Is Always Greener podcast.
It has nothing to do with culture and everything to do with being incredibly forgetful.
Yes. Sure, that's it.
Moments later.
I'm downloading the Google search app, and apparently that lets you search for songs by humming them.
More moments later.
You won't let me do it on desktop? Only on phone? Really?
Much later.
Google, what's this song?
According to Wikipedia, a song is a musical
Yo, I think I found it actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. From this video that I've been like scrolling back and forth through.
Oh.
With the time
What's
code.
What's the name?
Rondo a la Turca.
Oh, yes, that's it. It's a Mozart.
It's a Mozart.
It's a Mozart.
Maybe we do include pieces of this in the actual episode.
Oh my gosh.
This is good content.
Boy.
Break down.
Clearly, I did not learn much from Tales from the Music Maker.
Well, at least we educated ourselves.
More than this game did.
Yep. I do want to mention one thing about Tales and the Music Maker. Did you want to say anything before I go, or?
I think at this point we're done talking about this topic.
I know. I was going to say music maker, more like shrill tone maker to drive your parents insane.
But we would be remiss to finish talking about this game without mentioning the pinball section, since we had a whole episode about it.
Yeah, we did skip over it, but it's it's not even good pinball. Like,
yeah, it's not.
It's like the drain is on the top instead of the bottom, and you just get whatever points you hit. And like every bumper or whatever makes a note, but you can't exactly like make music from it. It's just sort of bong, bong every time you hit something.
It's the same with there's a little breakout clone where you're bouncing tails around that is also each block you hit is supposedly making a musical tone. But again, like most of them are the same, so it's just it doesn't sound good. Sorry.
Nope.
It sort of teaches you what the notes that you see on it do, but not necessarily like what they play on the scales. It's just like you'll see like a couple notes and it'll be like ding ding, and it's like, oh, I guess that's what that means. But aside from that,
and it's like, you know, if you can read sheet music, you'll know like, oh, that's a half note, that's a full note, that's a quarter note, and you hit it, and it's like, no, these are all the exact same length, even though the symbol on them, you know, suggests otherwise. It's weird.
Yeah, the only little mini game that actually seems to live up to the title is the second to last page, which seems to be like the music maker as described, that has the Tails is standing on the piano and you copy notes from like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and Old MacDonald and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's just a lot of noise.
Yep.
Yeah, you can play the piano keys like freeform on the last page along with the like drawing tool that's there as well.
But there's probably not like, say, Mario Paint, where there's someone who's like figured out how to play you and Owen is her. Right?
No, absolutely not. It is not nearly as in depth. Although I did play the Mario theme on the piano just to spite whoever made this.
There you go.
Some rivalries never die.
Yep. Well, we already mentioned that on the last page is like a little drawing page where you can put stamps and draw things. And Sonic is there. And he looks like Adventure Sonic, and that's about it, folks.
Pretty much.
There you go.
so Tails makes music, kind of.
Kind of.
That's it. It's
the much more interesting of the two Sonic Pico games, though, is Sonic's Gameworld. Yay! Which is surprisingly, I was briefly entertained. You know, again, these are ultimately at the end of the day, these are games for kids. But I'm like, if I was a kid, I do not think I would spend much time with Tales and the Music Maker. I would definitely spend a lot of time with Gameworld.
Oh yeah,
which I believe was developed by Aspect, makers of most of the Sonic Game Gear games.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And it's rather cute. This.
Yeah. It definitely has that look. You got some nice big, character sprites, and then the little overworld sprites for a lot of the games are these, tiny, cute little chibi, squished characters.
Yeah, I like them.
It's funny going from like the Adventures Tales to like Japanese classic Sonic and those designs.
It's funny though because they do have the Adventures Tales design in like the coloring book on the last page of the American version.
Interesting.
Probably because that page is not in the Japanese version of the book. Because there are a few differences, localization differences. There is an entire 2-page spread removed from the English release because it contained basically like a casino level, and all of the little mini games were gambling based. And I'm not going to spout off like I know, like Japanese history and culture as far as like, I know that's happened in other games like Pokemon and some of the re-releases they changed to like slot machines, whatever. But I looked at the games and you do literally like bet rings. Like the games ask you to place bets like you are actually gambling. And I know that would have flown over my head as a kid. Also, they don't look very fun at all. Like a lot of them, like it's a roulette and it really is like random based on the computer. And it seems I kind of get it. I hate that like, that's content that was never localized, but also at the same time, I'm like, this is a little weird, but to make up for it, kind of, they added a of the last page in the English version is a free, again, like you put stamps down, you can do like a little MS Paint style drawing. And that's probably why it all looks like existing Sonic clip art, including a funny looking, it almost does seem like someone tried to draw Tails, only trying to match it to the Japanese art, but it does just kind of look like Adventure's Tails.
Gameworld at least has a lot of charm to it. Like there's a little bit of voice acting for Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Eggman. You've got the little animal buddies wandering around. I feel like it's also cool because, the thing about the Pico was that you had the big touchpad at the bottom you could poke, but you could also literally touch anything on the individual pages of the books and it would interact. And, there really wasn't much difference between if you did it that way in Tales in the Music Maker. It makes more sense to push the stuff on the books itself because you get like the fuller kind of picture of everything, whereas the Gameworld screen just gives you this tiny view where there's not really a whole lot to click on.
I know when I was playing it through perfectly legal means, I was definitely using the book as opposed to the little tablet screen.
Yeah, all I remember is that on the actual television screen, your character will just be standing there. But I think every 5 seconds or so, they just keep repeating, "What shall we play?"
Yep.
And so, if you're a kid, you're looking at the book or just trying to, if I click this, the entire time you have your character standing there just almost like a kid-friendly version of the Sonic tapping his foot.
Yeah,
except
I was just thinking.
What shall we play? What shall we play? What shall we play?
What shall we play?
What?
Sonic, please stop. This pressure is too much.
Sonic, I don't want to go through your process.
You say that, I make that joke. There really are just 3 voice clips for each character. And I unfortunately couldn't find any information on who does them. I'm betting the English one was probably just some game devs that they pulled behind a microphone for 5 minutes. I want to say the Japanese Sonic kind of sounds like his actor from the arcade games, but I couldn't tell you for sure. But they are cute. I mean, they belong in the pantheon of, hey, this was a voiced Sonic.
And he didn't sound like this.
Yeah. Yeah. They all sound very appropriate. Pretty sure it's the first time Amy's had a voice, I think.
Outside of Sonic CD itself, because she has the little giggle.
If you count those. But they are funny. I do remember the Dr. Robotnik, I lost!
Him yelling, "I won!" has been lodged in my brain for 20-something years, because when I played it, as a kid, the first time, I just immediately skipped to the last page to do the diamond maze, and I had no idea what I was doing. He got all the diamonds. It's like, I won! And it has forever been a symbol of my failure.
Which, it is weird that it is, I think in both manuals, is called the Diamond Maze, but I mean, they're clearly Chaos Emeralds.
They are clearly Chaos Emeralds.
They are classic flat Chaos Emeralds.
There's only 5 of them, though.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's even less than Sonic 1.
Yeah. So. Where does Sonic's Game World chronologically fall in the Sonic timeline?
Although you do see Amy and Robotnik holding emeralds on the page, so maybe those are the remaining ones. I don't know.
There you go. Sonic stomping after him to beat him up.
The important thing is that when I played it again this time, I did actually beat Robotnik, so take that, childhood memories. I'm a grown-ass man. I beat a game for 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
Isn't that the best part about this, is we're getting over our grown-up analysis of these games that was meant for children.
Exactly.
Small. I mean, it's nothing unusual for us to be talking about things that are meant for children, but this is for babies, basically.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, as if it wasn't clear when I introduced the Pico, this is for toddlers, literally. But I mean, Sonic's Game World especially feels like a proper game. It's a little mini game collection, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if anything, it reminds me of all the arcade games we checked out and played during that particular episode, and it's got that very fun feel to it.
Especially with all the little Mobini characters hanging around.
Yeah.
Who, I should note, in the credits, because there is a credits scene if you beat Robotnik in the Diamond Maze thing, their names are listed as the Japanese ones, even a Robotnik's Robotnik. And you've got to beat Dr. Robotnik, as they keep telling you throughout the course of the game.
And he says, I will beat you, so you know that this means business.
But everyone else, it's Flicky, Ricky, Pocky, Pecky, you know the names.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. No Joe Sushi or Sally Acorn yet.
Nope.
Oh, they can't put Sally Acorn on this kid's game. She's not appropriate.
Yeah. She would be stark naked in this version.
I mean, it's bad enough that they put gambling games in the Japanese version. They put Sally in it. Oof, no.
Think of the children.
You know, another thing I think they removed for the English version is on the second page, Amy is staring at the, I think it's the fortune teller in the Japanese version, where you plug in, you and your partner's birth dates, and it gives you a compatibility.
Yeah.
But I don't think that does anything in the English version, so it's just...
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they cut that out.
It's just Amy staring at this weird-looking object that does nothing. Poor Amy.
Yeah, I keep forgetting this is actually for two players can play this.
Yes, I remember, me and my middle sister, are closer in age, and we would play, there are some games where it's 2-player simultaneously. You just take turns on buttons. And so, yeah, this is like a full, game you can play with somebody.
So which one of you played as Sonic and which one of you played as Eggman in the one where they're just throwing rings at each other?
Oh, I'm sure I insisted on always being Sonic. If I had to wager a guess about 7-year-old me at the time. Yep, Sonic's Game World. It's a game.
If they put this out on mobile with like slightly upscaled sprites for $2, I could totally, be okay giving this to a kid.
Yeah.
Don't
know if they'd learn much, but they'd have a fun little time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of the least educational of all the education games that we've had a look at or played.
Like, as somebody who played a lot of PC activity centers back in the day, this one's totally passable.
Yes.
But speaking of PC games, the next one on our list, I've heard it spoken of in legend. This is the first time I've ever actually played it for myself, though, after a lot of time spent making sure it would actually work.
I think you're the only one of us who went to the effort of trying to play this, because it did not seem like a streamlined process.
No, it was not, and I couldn't even do it all the way. Like, well, when we get there, we'll get there, but like I couldn't get the FMV to work without crashing the game.
I do have a vague memory of possibly seeing this in a store once, but I think I've shared it before that I had the Sonic the Screensaver, Sonic & Knuckles collection for PC that for some reason caused our Windows 95 family computer to blue screen, and it scared the shit out of me.
No.
And so I never tried to play it again, and also probably, discouraged me from ever getting a Sonic game for the PC. So I also have never played this one properly as well.
We are, of course, talking about Sonic's Schoolhouse for PC.
Oh my.
Or as I believe it was marketed, Doom, but for kids.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was initially looking at a playthrough of the video earlier this week for it, I even made the comment in our little Discord chat, just like, anybody getting Doom vibes from this Sonic Schoolhouse game?
Yeah, because I feel like I'm in hell.
Hey!
As it turns out, no, but it was built on the very Doom-esque Bloodwings Pumpkinhead's Revenge game engine.
Oh, my favorite part of going through this is how there are like Sonic jump scares every time you click on a door to another room. Like he's always in the room with you, saying like, click on me if you need help. But then you click on a door, it opens, and he's there behind the door already.
Look, he moves fast.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it seems that like more often than not, he's in a spinball motion, and it looks like he's about to take you out for the last time.
So my theory on this game is that this did not start as a Sonic game. But
I will confirm for you right now. It did not.
Okay.
If you
Yes.
apparently this started out as a different educational game that was retrofitted with Sonic relatively late in development. And if you dig through the files, it shows that originally the host character was going to be a talking clock.
Huh.
Okay, yes, I think I've seen this before, which makes sense because if you take a look at a video of this game, you'll notice Sonic has a weird voice because there are only 2 credited actors in this game, a male voice and a female voice, and they all do every character and narration in the game. And I bet, like you said, at the 11th hour, they brought, the lady doing the voices and said, please read these lines and say you're Sonic the Hedgehog. And we'll put... I don't know. It sounds like there might be a little bit of a pitch shifting on it. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit.
It does sound like I could imagine this coming more out of an anthropomorphic clock than I could Sonic the Hedgehog, but
Yeah, I remember, I think that was the first time I was introduced to this game was clips of how funny Sonic sounds, but seeing it in context, it is obvious that they just slapped Sonic over the top of this.
Very specifically, the Sonic from Sonic Extreme, the canceled Sega Saturn game. Like that is
That's
that
true.
exact same model.
For the people listening, because we have to let people know about the things that we're seeing in the voice chat or the text chat, that we're seeing a picture of this unused clock character, and seek it out if you... Actually, no, you know what? Don't seek it out. I would recommend that you not look at this abomination.
You said that. I was expecting like TT, the time trial clock.
That's exactly what I was
racing. But no, this looks like your dad's glow-in-the-dark analog clock with eyeballs and platform boots. And this is... No, don't like this.
If you really want to see it, you can see it on the Cutting Room Floors article for Sonic Schoolhouse.
This game, like you said, it's from like a Doom-esque camera angle. You're walking around first person after getting the lowdown from Sonic on how it plays and choosing your animal avatar.
Hi there, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog. You're going to play in my schoolhouse. If you've ever got a problem, find me and I'll help. Right over there is where you pick a character. Just click on the animal. Try it if you don't believe me.
Which, boy, we can't even get into all the weird noises they make.
I mean, some of those animals are something. Like I choose to believe that a few of them are bootleg versions of Vector Porker and Johnny.
Yes. I was going to say, the video I watched, the player chose the rabbit, who you think,
Yes.
what? The only noise I know a rabbit makes is the sound it is when it's being murdered. And so instead of that, they choose to have a very cartoonish... laughing noise.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And you hear it every time you win at one of the, like when you pass one of these tests, and it's
Yes.
good.
And the whole time, Sonic is, tutorializing you. Like, you're going to play in my schoolhouse. No, Sonic, please stop threatening me.
Sorry, I'm looking at footage now, and I'm just looking at these little CG characters, and I know CG was still like early days back then, but
but the pig, like when you click on him and he just those eyes,
I know.
man, like oof.
I'm just looking at the pig again. Yeah, they breathe, and but their eyes stay stationary as their whole face like morphs around their eyes. It's terrifying.
These early 3D games, just like, I think the animators had fun making unintentional question mark body horror.
Yeah.
Especially with eyes like bulging out and people's faces contorting in these little character animations.
I love all the weird little tutorial things Sonic says, like, over there's where you pick a character. Just click on the animal. Try it if you don't believe me.
Yes.
I like how Sonic like gets into like the specifics of just like, if your game is running slow, switch from Pentium to
to 486.
I like the part with the music where he's like, I like having the music playing, but you're the boss.
This is where you choose your name. If you're not sure how to do it, ask a grown-up. That's what they're for.
and only that.
And only that. I will say, the one piece of Sonic music is during the Sega logo at the start, you hear a little tiny bit of the bonus stage from Sonic 3.
Yeah, that's it. Everything else is probably the music they were going to use before, I imagine.
Yeah. Of course, when I had the option, I played a 4th grade level because I'm smart.
Yeah. I'd have to play a 1st grade level.
It's okay, Jake. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, eventually. I'll just, I keep working, keep studying, and one day I'll learn what 2 + 3 is. But yeah, as far as the gaming content, quote unquote, of this game, it's mostly just like matching like pictures to words on like chalkboards. Like you'll see a chalkboard that says the word bat, and it's referring to an animal, and then you have to like run through like 5 different rooms just to find like a floating picture of a bat, and then like click it and then take it back to that board just to place it there. And it's just kind of that ad nauseum. It's also the same with like what number comes after 4? 5. So you have to run and find the floating 5 or the bouncing 5 rather, because the 5s, all the numbers have eyeballs and they're all sentient beings that you're trapping in these blackboards.
Same with the letters.
There is a bit of a Banjo-Kazooie-ish sort of feel about that. But,
that's
a
a
good way to put it.
Some of it, and honestly, some of it is just really slow to do. Like, I played the spelling one first, and, you're spelling 6 or 7 letter words, 4 of them are missing. You have to go and find each letter individually, and then go back and find the next letter, and then go back and find the next one. And you would think that you would be able to just like get them all and then take them back, but that would be too easy. And every time, Sonic's like, "Great start, but you haven't finished the word yet," and it's just so annoying. And also, the whole time, Robotnik is wandering around the classroom in a big eggmobile that has teeth on it for some reason, and just steals your answers, and it's horrifying.
Although, before I put my foot in my mouth all the way, there's also a couple extra gaming modes out in the schoolyard.
Yeah, so if you clear each room, it will or each blackboard, it will potentially open up a door. And that might take you to another room with more blackboards. But theoretically, you can earn up to 6 different collectibles from each time you play. 3 Sonic tokens, 2 school buses, and a key. The key basically just lets you open a door without answering the question, which never had to use because, again, smart. But the Sonic tokens let you go to, basically outside for recess to do a little mini game. The only 2 are like a memory matching game where you click on a question mark and it'll bring up a statue of a Sonic thing. Could be a character like Tails or Knuckles, could be like a palm tree or a lamppost or a ring, and then just gotta match them all. And the higher your difficulty level, the more of them you have to match. The other one is just get a certain number of rings without letting Robotnik or his badniks touch you. And Sonic starts that one off by saying, "Get ready for a Sonic adventure." And I just slowly closed my eyes and shook my head.
Slowly close your eyes and think about what you could be playing instead.
Yeah.
So technically, this is the first Sonic adventure in America, in game form.
I mean, I can't even argue that.
But that is...
I do love that when you're finished with a little game, though, Sonic will be like, "Did you enjoy the game? Let's go back to school." And it's like, no.
No, Sonic, stop.
No to both. Although, you know what? I will say, if I was a kid playing this, I'd probably be pretty into it, actually. I could imagine myself, going to the kids' corner of the library and booting this up and be like, "Yes, this is the best game ever. Sonic sounds not cool, but this is still the best game ever."
I don't know if I would have had that same love for it. I admit, I love a bunch of things that are bad just because they have Sonic in them.
Yes.
But, I also was playing a lot of educational games at that time, and I'm not sure that, that one would have held my interest compared to, I could go and boot up Putt-Putt again or something. The one other collectible you could get were little school bus tokens that would let you go on a field trip in Sonic's school bus, which, just looking at it, looks like I'm about to be kidnapped.
I appreciate that, intentionally or not, this is a very Sonic-like section because he hops in the driver's seat and immediately blasts off at 90 miles per hour in this large yellow school bus.
Isn't this school bus kind of in an enclosed area anyway, so it couldn't drive off?
It's surrounded by fences on all sides, but again, if you look at the school bus, that does not look in any way, legitimate, let's say.
It does look like the text Sonic School Bus has been written on in hastily. But I do like to think that maybe like you're getting, because every time you get in this and you click on one of Sonic's friends, which is just all the other school kids, I guess, that you could have picked, then it plays this little video of you going on the field trip and you're driving along this really fast. But it's like the same route every time, so I like to think that that's not even really what's happening. You're just seeing a little video that he's loaded up. It's like a little simulator.
Yeah.
Yep.
You do, yeah, the buttons you click to get the educational animal videos are implying that like this is being rear projected onto the windshield screen. So yeah, maybe this is just like a refrigerator box turned on its side that Sonic has made into
Did you enjoy your
a
field trip,
school
kids?
bus.
Back to school.
Which, let me tell you, this is, I skipped around the video I watched because, like you guys said, the gameplay is very repetitive and, oh man. But I watched all of these funny little educational animal videos, and some of them are pretty fun, and some of them seem like they might have been recorded at the end of the day when everyone was tired.
Yes.
I'm just listening to the hippo video. There aren't as many of us now because people used to hunt us. Now I'm protected by law.
Yeah. A lot of these focusing on like the endangered status of a lot of these animals, which I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I remember learning about, gators in Florida being on the endangered list until they weren't.
And the gator specifically has to warn kids to stay away from her and her family.
Yep.
If you ever see one of us, you be careful and keep your distance. I wouldn't hurt you, understand? But some gators aren't as friendly as me.
And they've all got such beautiful accents.
Oh, yes. Especially the kangaroo.
The kangaroo.
Good day, mate. That's how we say hello where I'm from. That's Australia, in case you didn't pick up on the accent.
Good day, mate.
Oh, boy. That's how we say hello in Australia. I'm like, obviously you're going for the cartoony exaggeration. Maybe just turn it up a few notches.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not exaggerated enough.
If you're already doing Crocodile Dundee, etc., at least commit to the bit, I suppose.
I will admit, though, I did actually learn something from the kangaroo video because I did not know that there was, I guess at the time of recording, I think they said over 50 types of kangaroos.
Different species.
Yeah.
I did not know that either.
The only types of kangaroos I knew were animated and jacked beyond all reason.
Yeah, they don't mention that Kakaran kangaroos will, just like the porcupine, fuck you up.
It's true. Like Roger from Tekken was very much based in reality. While I was watching those animal videos, I had a moment of realization that just shook me because the hippo and the rabbit videos use music tracks that were also used in Lego Island, and I did a triple take the moment I realized.
Oh my gosh.
The hippo uses the elevator music from the information center, which apparently was also used in that new Toe Jam and Earl game somewhere. And the rabbit uses the music from the Pepperoni introduction video. And then I listened further, and the pig uses that one stock jingle that I've heard in countless games from that era. And I went down a whole rabbit hole trying to figure out where it was. It's the... I have heard that thing in so many educational games from that time, and it triggered a primal memory in me, and I had to track out what is that from. and then I finally found it labeled as Cartoon Music Theme 3 in the Sound Ideas 4000 Sound Library, which is a fact I only discovered last night before recording at 4 a.m. because I couldn't stop thinking about it, and trying to source this stupid thing it feels like solving a great mystery that has been plaguing me my entire life, which I didn't realize had been doing so until now. So big thanks to Sparky the Android for helping me track that down.
Luke, it can't hurt you anymore. It cannot hurt you anymore.
You're free now.
I can't escape it.
I'm suddenly realizing why you spent so much time trying to find that Russian song. This is like a deep-seated issue.
You were having a flashback.
Well, can't say you didn't learn anything through this educational episode.
Exactly.
Oh my.
Is there anything else that we want to say about Sonic's quote-unquote schoolhouse?
Click on me for help.
Weird, man.
It's got a ridiculously long credit sequence.
Somebody poured it into a Doom wad.
Somebody did make a Sonic Roboblast 2 level out of it.
Oh, that's worrying.
That's worrying.
This did inspire an independent game called Baldi's Basics, I believe.
Yeah.
A horror game which took this... Because they looked at this game and were like, that's terrifying. What if we actually made it a scary game? Good idea. If you see this, it's like, yeah, that's... No, valid.
I only know what Baldi's Basics is because there are toys in Walmart for it. So I assumed it was like one of the like creepypasta type things that the kids are all the rage about.
Well, we can blame Sonic Schoolhouse for that.
Yeah, that would be the last Sonic educational game for close to a decade, I think, until around 2005 when we got a little game called Sonic X for the LeapFrog Leapster.
Oh boy.
What's the LeapFrog Leapster, precisely?
It was a system designed specifically for making educational games for wee tiny children.
I remember seeing these when I briefly worked at a Toys R Us. They had a whole aisle of edutainment systems. And yeah, LeapFrog, they made, I think they started making like the little laptops for children that would play only like pre-programmed games and sometimes had cartridges to swap out. And I remember the Leapster is like a big, cumbersome, like tablet-sized Game Boy style thing with a couple of buttons, and you swap out the cartridges. And I do remember seeing copies of Sonic X for the Leapster. And, hoo boy, when you sent me this video and I booted it up on YouTube on my television, it sure is like almost a mini episode of the English dub of Sonic X.
It's Eggman! Help! Sonic! Where are you? Did someone call my name? Hey, my friends! You're going down, Eggman!
Not so fast! You'll have to get by my greatest inventions ever! My wonderful math robots!
Sonic, you must defeat those math robots and rescue our friends! You're the only one who can do it! I'm always up for a challenge! Bring it on!
You've got the voice cast there. It's Jason Griffith as Sonic. It's Susan Goldish as Chris Thorndyke. And there's Mike Pollock as Dr. Eggman. And the scenario is that he is attacking Station Square with a bunch of math robots who kidnap Sonic's friends. And he has to travel across Station Square, the Angel Island, and Eggman's base to collect the Chaos Emeralds, including the Master Emerald, to defeat...
In 2 parts.
Yeah, to defeat the concept of math.
Finally.
I mean, Eggman has come up with weirder plans, let's be honest.
You don't actually have to get the Chaos Emeralds, though. You only get them if you get all the rings in a stage, and if you get all of them plus the Master Emerald, it does absolutely nothing.
Oh, cool.
Oh, thanks.
It's like Sonic
Awesome.
1 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're telling me I can't turn to Supersonic who knows how to do calculus?
Nope.
Aw. I'm going to leap away from this game if you know what I'm saying.
Oh.
Fun fact, all of the cutscenes in this game were literally animated in Flash, and I have the SWF
see
files.
it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, I still
sort
have
of
that Google Drive folder you sent me, and someday maybe we'll put this thing together to do something with it. But
Someday.
It's almost weird having the Sonic X voices, like, animated, bespoke animation for them.
Yeah.
It feels a bit strange.
there is obviously lots of like tracing of official Sonic X clip art. I noticed several poses that are very familiar. I'll give this game credit because for what it is, it actually looks pretty okay. The Sonic gameplay sprites seem to be custom, like it looks like a lot of Sonic 3, but there's also some Sonic Advance poses and stuff in there. And like the Tails and Amy, they're just trapped by Eggman and have like a victory pose when you release them at the end of the levels. And those look like pretty fully custom, and those actually they look cool. I like those sprites. And the levels are pretty generic. You know, I said it's Station Square, Angel Island, and Eggman's base, but all of that kind of looks like it's ripped out of like any other edutainment title at the time. Like Eggman's base is just like a big red UFO.
Yeah, that would be really strange if this was just a reskin of another educational game, but that just seems unlikely, don't you think? Yeah, so this is a reskin of another educational game by the same developer called Numbers on the Run, Count on Zero. And there's still assets from that game, like buried deep in the game's code. And this game would actually later get reskinned into a Go Diego Go educational game.
Oh my God.
Just the ride never ends.
Well, you know, that seems par for the course for this kind of like billing it as an educational thing.
I'm looking at it. It's got the same sound effects as well. That's so wild.
Yep.
Better be as frugal as possible.
Man.
And it just moves, like you can tell because it just moves so slowly, even by like, you know, there's even like little boosters that will send you on preset routes to make it look like you're actually going fast and through loops and stuff. And it's like, no.
Good try, but no.
I mean, considering the next Leapster-based Sonic game, maybe that's a better alternative.
Maybe. Like, I feel like they even just got some of the basics wrong. Like, the checkpoints are signposts, and the stage goals are lampposts.
That bothered me so much. I shouldn't get that mad about this, because it just, you know, I'm used to seeing, like, poor, like, ROM hack type games where it's just, or just, like, things where they take, like, assets from other games, but, I shouldn't get this mad, but seeing those two mixed up.
And also, the touchscreen mini games they keep making you do are also not very good.
Are those like the little things where you get like sucked up by Robotnik's?
Yeah, with Eggman's Super Sucky Machine.
It's Eggman's Super Sucky Machine!
Yeah, of course. That's a great thing I wanted to hear Chris Thorndyke say. Because every time Sonic would get caught, I would just hear him go,
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the extra compression on the voices, but man, Chris sounds like he's up to 2 packs a day in this game.
And he won't stop bragging about he's a close personal friend of Sonic. I could be Sonic's friend if I wanted to.
Do words really mean anything?
I think we were talking about this in the pre-show, but the maybe the weirdest aspect is that the math robots talk back to Sonic.
Yeah.
So every time you pass a mini game, you get to walk by like their sparking, you know, malfunctioning corpse, and they say something like, "I'll get you next time, Sonic."
You're too cool, Sonic.
I've been outclassed.
Beaten by the best.
You're so good at math, Sonic.
You're radical.
There are lots of weird teen anachronisms from Chris whenever you pass one of these games. He pops in like, "Wow, Sonic, that was totally outrageous."
I couldn't have done it without your help.
I think he could have, actually, to be honest. I just think Chris is trying to impress him. That's his cool friend, I think.
He's got to keep feeding his ego.
Like, there are proper little mini games where like you're aiming at like you're solving very simple equations, but also like the ones in the actual levels, it's like, what number comes after 10? And then you walk like 2 inches to the left and there's a giant 11 standing in your path. So like even then it's like, okay, you're barely having to think about these, which I know game for little kids, but I mean, come on, even little kids want a little bit of a challenge here.
I'm curious if this one even made it into the encyclopedia.
Oh, gosh.
You know what? Give me 2 minutes. I'm going to grab my copy and check.
No, damn you.
This is one of those episodes.
Too late. Already walking away. I see a mention of Schoolhouse, Gameworld, and Music Maker. I do not see the Leapster games.
Slap a big stamp on it. Not canon.
You trying to say that Chris Thorndyke isn't Sonic's best and personal friend?
I would take the Sonic X Archie comics over this thing. Okay, we got to get to this. I don't think I even spelled it right in my notes. I think it's Didj. We got to get to this game because this made me feel like I was like about to have an aneurysm.
Yeah, so the Didj was a successor to the Leapster that was supposed to skew a little older. I've heard that it's actually like you can get emulators running on it really easily if you're into that homebrew scene. But it did have an original Sonic the Hedgehog game on it. Original in quotes.
Oh, the biggest quotes humanly possible. The first thing you see when you boot this game up is the Sonic the Hedgehog logo, but it is specifically the one from Sonic 2006. Man, strap in, because you are in for a video game. What a way to kick it off. This is technically a custom version of Sonic the Hedgehog. I guess mostly Sonic 2? With some Sonic 1 mixed in, but it's all scored with mostly Sonic 3 music.
Which I suppose they actually had the rights to use, so...
Yeah, which again, talking about cognitive dissonance, is you're running through a zone that is called Green Hill, but is also clearly using Emerald Hill assets, and it is using Mushroom Hill Zone music.
Little of all the hills for you.
Yeah, kind of the first zone, if you will.
And you can tell just from watching this that this thing controls like...
Garbo.
Oh...
I mean,
yes.
It still looks more fun than Sonic X.
The way that Sonic clips through item monitors and you have to hit like the sweet spot pixel on the top of them makes me think like I would rather be, if I had to play one of these, I would rather play the dumb Sonic X baby game that's not even, trying to look like a Sonic game than this, which just seems like... you mentioned earlier, I remember downloading a whole bunch of like bad Game Factory Sonic fan games when I was young. Those look like they played better than this. Like the MS Paint Sonic throwing apples at a poorly drawn Robotnik looks more coherent than this.
Like even the like the background textures in Green Hill Zone 1 in this LeapFrog game, like it's like tiling. You can see the seams of each background image.
Yes. That also made me feel crazy. I thought, is this just the video capture? I'm looking like, no, this game is compressed. There's JPEG jaggies on it. Oh my God.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are, and everyone else, we are not the kind of Sonic fans who would just simply judge a game's gameplay through videos alone, because what kind of Sonic fan would do something like that? But you can, as people who've played these games, like the original classic Sonic trilogy, a lot, you can tell it's not working. It's not functioning as it should.
Also, I looked up a bunch of videos of people playing this, and every one of them said it was garbage.
There are times where you get lost in the tiles and the scenery, and they have to restart, because Sonic is just spinning within a wall.
But it does have an achievement system.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, boy. Yeah, just glancing at the Sonic Retro article, there are lots of, like, bracketed comments like... Somebody's going to have to rip this information out of the game someday because nobody cares to try on this dead platform. That this is documented for history at all is a miracle.
Yeah. It's so many weird choices. Like, level 1, like we said, called Green Hill, has Emerald Hill graphics, Mushroom Hill music. Second level, called Emerald Hill, has still Emerald Hill graphics, Mushroom Hill music. It's like, why even?
And not even Mushroom Hill Act 2, just the same music.
Yeah. Like that's the whole thing, is that every like 2 acts are completely different zones with the same music between the two. Like levels 3 and 4 are Sandopolis and Hydro City Hydrocity, and they've both got Sandopolis music and enemies.
And it's the worst version of Hydrocity I've ever seen. So bad. Do you remember how fun that level was? It looks like they've just made it into a not even a well-designed platformer. You're just having to slog around and find. And there were times when the person playing it got lost trying to find the next bit that they needed to do.
Yeah, and there are arbitrary like grammar and math related mini games that it seemed like the way you got to them was you jump through the giant rings, which are just lying about. And man, for as like I said, weirdly funny it was to have like the Sonic X English cast in the last game. All that you have in this one is, I'm pretty sure, is a text-to-speech woman's voice giving you instructions on these mini games, and it's just a little disconcerting.
It's very worrying, actually, because there's this emotionless voice like telling you off for screwing things up, and you're just like, that is wrong. Try again. Last chance.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, like, apparently there's 6 or 7 of those rings in every level, and every time you beat one, you get something called a gadget. But I never figured out what they actually were or what they were used for, because nobody ever bothered in any of the playthroughs I watched to actually look for them.
It seems like, looking at some information on the Didj console itself, that might have been tied to the achievement system and gaining like system points that you could have redeemed for like potential downloadable content. But I mean, if it wasn't obvious, this thing was like a super failure, and so all of the online aspects are long shut down, and still very, very weird.
It all culminates with you fighting on the egg base, which is the death egg zone, by the way. But you can't have death in a game for small children.
The final level from Sonic 2.
Yeah, the original version of the death egg. And you fight the death egg robot, or the egg base robot in this case.
While the Sonic and Knuckles mini-boss music is playing for some reason.
And it's... they beat it really fast, the person playing this. It did not look very difficult.
Yeah.
And then when you hit when you land the last hit, it just goes poof and dies. It's like a regular robot.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
They did also fit in Scrap Brain and Chemical Plant with flying battery music.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Oh Lord.
And all of these second levels have bosses to them. Like,
that's true.
The Emerald Hill Zone has the Emerald Hill boss. Chemical Plant has the Chemical Plant boss. Hydrocity has the Carnival Night boss for some reason.
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
It's just weird.
It seems, we didn't mention at the beginning, the Sonic sprites seem to be like the last one, kind of like a mix of Sonic 3 with some Sonic Advance poses, but they just look 100 times worse in this version.
I don't know. I realized they were probably on a shoestring budget, but
yeah.
Oh, certainly.
We're not here like dumping on the devs and the people working on this. I know it was probably a lot of work, and they probably working having to pump this out real fast, and if so, that certainly goes to explain a lot of it. It's just the final product's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I remember seeing this stuff while I worked at Toys R Us, and it was clearly all made to capitalize on like, I want my children to be able to play video games, but I want it to be educational. And they just filled that niche for uneducated parents who didn't know any better. And so, yeah, I hold no ill will towards the people that had to make this stuff, but man, it is obviously like you said, crapped out on like the shoestring budget on whatever licenses they could get their hands on for parents to disappoint their children with.
Anyway, let's just all listen to the end of act theme just to really get a good vibe of what this sounds like. Because that was like, some of the music doesn't sound so bad, but that bit in particular is just, I don't know if it's like bit crushed or something's going on with it. It just...
There's a weird thing. I feel like there's the speed shoes power up, and I could not tell what was happening to the music in the video I was watching. I couldn't tell
it was
if
like
it was
a sped up Mushroom Hill, but for all the levels.
This is my pick for the capital W worst game out of these from my experience, because it's, you can forgive, Sonic Schoolhouse and Sonic X and the Pico games because they are not trying to emulate like traditional gameplay. This one is trying to be a classic Sonic game, and it just hurts. It hurts my brain. It was almost like one of those like surreal horror things where all of a sudden you realize something is not how it should be, and your brain is trying to process like what's going on.
I found this Sonic educational game in a garage sale, and then
we go
with the label peeled off.
It is funny to see a bad recreation of a classic Sonic game with kind of ear-hurting music and just poor physics thrown together. But at least they didn't call this one Sonic the Hedgehog 4.
Yeah. See, I thought you were going for Sonic GBA.
Oh my goodness. That's actually a bit closer to what's going on here, to be honest.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah. Unlike those other two official products, I don't think there's any salvaging Sonic the Hedgehog for the LeapFrog, did you?
I don't think you should bother, really.
More like, did you? No, I didn't.
Yep.
Speaking of things that we didn't do or didn't happen, or that's a segue. Let's get on to our next game.
Yeah, now, just like with our arcade games episode, we've talked a lot about all these games that came out. So now we got to talk about the one we know of that didn't. And that is Sonic's Edusoft for the Master System.
Now, what's so soft about it?
Not much. Because there are some rough edges on this bad boy.
Oh, yeah.
So my understanding is that US Gold, like an old school game publisher that I don't believe is around anymore, basically they had the rights to port a bunch of Sega games to like microcomputers like the Amiga and the Commodore. And they basically contracted Tiertex, another developer who's, I'm trying to think what else they're known for. I believe they did the James Pond games.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Whoa, they did a shitload
Yeah,
of stuff.
they did a lot of stuff. Yeah, no, they basically contracted to be like, hey, we want you guys to work on this educational Sonic game for Sega. We're going to pitch it to them for the Master System because we feel like that is the system that most of like the current audience has, especially, you know, over here in Europe where we're based. So
I was about to say they were based in Manchester in the UK and Master System homeland.
Yeah,
that's true.
And so they worked on this for a while, but before they could finish, basically Sega ultimately ended up not approving the pitch, and so it got the axe. But years later, sometime in the 2010s, a ROM surfaced just kind of completely out of nowhere. And it's a game. The most impressive thing about it is that it's a Master System game that actually has like Genesis quality sprites on it.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's really weird seeing that when we're used to having Sonic not having a nose in those kind of games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I gotta point out right at the top here, it is funny that Sonic, when he's traveling along the little overworld, seems to be all of his sprites are based on the idle animation from Sonic 1. And so you have this very pissed off looking Sonic just trotting around these various little math mini games. And I'm like, really? I guess that's the only sprite they had to reference like a forward-facing Sonic at the time, but it is very funny.
Yeah.
It's the best part of this game.
It really fits that he's having to go around and play all these educational games in Green Hill Zone when he could be having a good time. But I'd be the same way, Sonic.
Even when he's flying his novelty helicopter around, he is just looks like he's not having a good time.
I know, yeah. I wanted to say he always looks like he's like pretty annoyed at the entire situation.
Wouldn't you be if you were stuck in a bad educational game?
I would be particularly annoyed if I had to play a matching or spelling game where I had to answer like 5 to 10 questions just to get to a picnic table full of food.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that little transition.
Like it's so strange. Like all of them are kind of based around the same core minigame of you've got a little grid of potential answers around you. You point to them and Sonic moves a little bit forward against an enemy he's racing, like a Motobug. You just got to keep doing these games where he inches forward a little bit with every correct answer. There's even an animation of him, instead of just moving forward a little bit, he runs all the way to the end and then runs back.
Yeah.
It's like
he does a little lap almost, and it just takes more time.
It's so strange. And apparently, you know, every time you win, you get like a little star, and you have to get a certain number to move on, like use the helicopter to move on to the next zone. And it just kind of goes on like that for a while. And I'm kind of understanding why this one got passed over, because it's not very good.
No.
And I realize, it's an unfinished game still in production, but I don't think the hook would have, hooked anybody.
No, even looking at the little mini games that involve like a trampoline, what is it, a balloon, like that's where the video I was watching, the gameplay ended, where the person obviously couldn't figure out how to work this broken mini game.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, okay, that's it. Oh man. Also have to point out the Green Hill running a mini game where you're hopping over obstacles that if you trip over one of the pieces of trash in your way, Sonic just flies forward onto his face and just eats he doesn't lose any rings. It's just flat on his face and slides a few feet. It is absolutely hilarious.
Oh, it's the Sonic shorts before.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
It's the very first Sonic short.
We've all been ripping off Sonic's Edusoft and we didn't even know it.
Oh, I think I saw somebody on Twitter just posted a compilation with some of that New Frontiers footage where Sonic gets knocked away on his face and just added like the various times Sonic has just been slapped right to the ground face first. So add it to the list.
Yeah, it's cool that, this exists in a playable state and we can try it. I'm just not sure I want to.
Yeah.
I did get sick of it pretty fast, to be honest. I did try to see if I could beat it, but I think it just sort of stops at one point, that there's nowhere else to go.
The ending has not been coded, so you kind of run out of stuff to do before it finishes.
There's only so many times I can beat a small motor bug or a Mobini called Sega and have the massive letters saying loser right next to them before it gets a tiny bit old. But
I love massive letters that are still clearly in lower cases. There's anything I've learned today is that the most educational Sonic worth your while is just a compilation of the Sonic Says segments from Adventures.
You're bound to learn something from that.
Yeah.
I see after Sonic Edusoft, Sonic clearly, understandably pissed the whole time. He was like, you know what? I'm going to go and teach my own class. That'll show those kids. If I have to go through this, everyone else does, and they're never allowed to leave. Come on, get on my school bus that goes nowhere.
I'm gonna break the governor off the school bus. I'm gonna go 105 miles an hour. So at the end of all these educational games, I wanted to ask two questions of y'all. One is just a quick funny one, and then the second one is it'll be a good little thinky one for us to kind of end the episode on. So the first one is it possible that this episode of The Hill is Always Greener is possibly our most negative episode of the show?
I was just thinking that, we tried to be positive on here, but we had to literally do a bunch of homework before this episode, and not in a fun way.
Yeah, I did talk about how all the good memories I have associated with Sonic's Gameworld and how it is worth looking. It is worth checking out because it is definitely the most complete game of all of these. It's got some really cute art and some cute little mini games, and everything else is just. It exists.
And you learn that Sonic is a hedgehog. Thanks.
Whoa.
Johnny Lightfoot / whatever your name is in Japanese again. Pocky? Probably. It's some sort of P-E name. Anyway, moving on.
It's not Cucky.
Oh, no.
No, not our boy Cucky, who is represented in there.
So the second question I wanted to ask is, out of all the games we talked about today, which one of these, and you know what? I'm going to make this hard. I'm going to exclude Sonic's Gameworld. which of these, so which of these games would you, I don't want to say make, but which one would you like for your future child or children to play? Which one of these, not including Sonic's Gameworld?
Oh, boy.
This is entirely hypothetical on my case.
If I had to put in a time capsule, for some future child, mine or otherwise, gosh, that is really hard. Oh man, I guess only because what did you say earlier, Luke? That the Pico games lend themselves to somehow being adapted to a touchscreen. I guess I would have to default to Tales in the Music Maker, because otherwise, talking about how hard it was for you to get Sonic Schoolhouse running on any kind of machine. Oh, I guess, yes, I'm going to have to default to Tales in the Music Maker because it's the least frightening.
I doubt they'll learn much, but at least they'll be able to draw at the end, I guess.
I'm going to go with Schoolhouse just because that's the only one of those 5 games that I actually know somebody who played back in the day, and they turned out okay. So there's not enough data on the other games, so I can't, willingly subject someone to that without knowing the potential effects on somebody.
Did they turn out to be a Sonic fan is the important question.
Yes?
Not so sure now.
Well, we can't interview anyone who played the Leapster games because they're all in jail. Driven to the edge.
I'd have to agree with Luke, and I would want my future child or children to play Sonic Schoolhouse because, first of all, it's the only game out of all these where I actually legitimately learned something. And second of all, the 3D night terrors just seem so fun.
Yeah, the Sonic jump scares.
You gotta traumatize your kids.
Someday we'll mod the game to put Jeremy's voice into it.
Oh boy!
Well, the 4 of us will all do different voices for all the characters.
Yes, can we fix the limitations put on the original and have more than 2 voices?
I'm just gonna straight up do the same voice for the rabbit.
We'll all do our bad Australian accent for all of the dialogue.
Good day, mate. That is how we... Chris, if you had to pick one of these games, which one would it be?
In the entirely hypothetical scenario where I had a child. Poor thing. I don't know. I would want to, but I guess... I guess Sonic Schoolhouse wouldn't require me to buy an actual Pico. I think it's the only one which I was just like, this is bad, but I kind of enjoy it in a way.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can get it running better on whatever holographic future mist-based computer.
Well, thank you for entertaining that question, everybody.
No, thank you for coming up with it.
So I believe that's probably a good place to wrap up this episode, don't you think, fellas?
Boy,
I've learned a lot, including how much that I wish I hadn't learned.
Well, I'm glad, like I said, I remember seeing the Leapster games when I was working at Toys R Us, and I'm glad that I did not slap down my hard-earned minimum wage money to buy one just for the novelty of it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I avoided that. So thank you for this episode for vindicating past me.
I don't think we even did we have those over here? If I did,
Maybe?
I never saw one and I had no interest. So I think the Pico came up in Sonic the Comic, and that would have been the entirety of my knowledge about it at that time.
When the Leapster games would have come out, I was well beyond the age where I would have even given a second glance.
I think a couple of my younger cousins, when they were little kids, had a Leapster or a LeapFrog or something like that, but I don't think I ever saw them ever playing a Sonic-based game. Otherwise, I would have been the cousin just watching over the shoulders you're doing it wrong. No, you're supposed to jump there.
No, what? That's an end thing, not a lamppost. What is going on here?
Is that Chris Thorndyke in a Sonic game? Jesus.
On that note,
school's out, everyone. Thank goodness. This really does feel like the end of school. I'm happy to put this back. No, it wasn't the worst time, but we did have to play educational games.
I was happy to learn about these things. For even as weird as they are, I'm always down to learn new things about the sordid history of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, definitely.
Yep. But until next time, you can find me on Twitter at CyberLink420.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at RockTheJake.
You can find me at all sorts of social media at Faulerro.
What's the jingle?
Oh no, I didn't do the jingle! Sorry, all of this has broken my brain, apparently. Yeah. That's FAULERRO.
And I'm on Twitter at Great Job Jeremy. That's GR and the number 8.
Special thanks, as always, to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp. And if you do like this podcast, please make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, because it does help us to get the word out and to hopefully expand the show.
We love doing the show, but we'd also love people to listen to it a little bit. No,
it helps us to know that when we rightfully trudge through educational games like this, people are listening and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, at least someone could be.
We need to know that our suffering is worth it in at least some respect. But as for next time, Chris, did you have something in mind?
No. Oh, no, I did. Sorry. Apparently, all of this has completely destroyed my mental process.
I thought that was a joke.
No, you thought this would help me actually focus, but no. So, okay, next episode, everyone, we are going to tackle a puzzled game. That's right. Well, we're not talking about puzzle games. We're not like going out for a whole list of puzzle games. No. We've learned our lesson about covering a whole genre of games in one episode. We're going to...
No, we haven't.
No, that's true. So what we're going to be doing is... I don't know if you've heard of this little thing called Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. It was a fun little puzzle game, completely bespoke, original game made around Dr. Robotnik. A great little match 4 game that just happened to be a complete reskin of Puyo Puyo. One of many. And I am excited to talk about this because it is like the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog game, almost. Except for there's no Sonic, there's Robotnik's there, and there's lots of beans.
Ooh.
So, come along and join us as we deep dive into that wild and wacky experience that just happens to be taken off a Japanese title that was never released in the West, at least not for a long time until they crossed it over with Tetris, but we'll get to that too! Next time.
Don't miss it!
It's a deep rabbit hole, the Sonic Puyo Puyo connection, and I'm looking forward to really giving it its due.
I love all these rabbit holes we go down.
Yep.
You think there would be hedgehog holes?
They have burrows, do they?
They do.
What would we call it? We should probably come up with our own one.
Just not hog hole.
Well, they've got to... That's how they live behind the fast food restaurant. They eat scraps.
That's true.
But until then, I'm CyberLink.
I'm RockTheJake.
I'm Faulerro.
And I'm GameBuddy. And, well, if I never see you again, Tails, this is how I'll always remember you. As a little two-tailed dimwit who's always whinging.
It's a line I've always wanted to hear you say.
Vindication at last.
He's just a little bit dead.
Pixel Man.